Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Culture of Podcast. This is episode 2. We're very happy to be here. As a reminder, I am your co-host, Gary J. Nix, and to the right of me, we have.
I am the other co-host, Amber Chenevert.
And for episode 2, we have brought a guest who happens to be in town, right? So, because of who they are, I would like to introduce you all to Sequoyah Glenn.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. I'm so glad to be here.
Hey, girl.
It all works out.
It
Amber,
does.
I finally figured out how to say your last name. So nice to see y'all.
Yeah. So Sequoyah, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, well, it all started in 1991.
Okay.
But no, seriously, I'm Sequoyah. I live in Atlanta, so I'm very excited to be here. I was like, Gary, why don't we just cut while I'm here? You know, it's just something about that in-person synergy.
Yeah.
I am an Army brat. I'm a fine arts kid. I'm an auntie. I'm a sister and a daughter. Those are the things that I really like to share with people because it makes me who I am.
Yeah.
Professionally, I am a data nerd or geek.
Mm.
And I am a strategist overall. I am about 13 years in this game, 15 depending on what types of taxes you count in.
Mhm.
But about 13 years in the game. I am a founder of several things. I founded my agency 924 Cooperative,
Mhm.
which is all about using data and insights to get to some really dope marketing strategy and more recently got into innovation work, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I'm also the founder of a few groups that I love to shout out. So Black Marketers Coalition, which is how I met Gary about
Okay.
6 years ago. The Culture MRX, both of them are really about making sure Black folks in this industry, which are both about 4 and 6% respectively, making sure they know each other, making sure we provide opportunity, and honestly, just get to the money, right? And do it with some style. I also founded a greeting card line called happyresignationday.com, which is about celebrating career transitions. I've had quite a few myself. So making sure people feel seen and know that it's just ultimately it is just a job.
Mhm.
And really hoping that folks remember where mental health fits into their careers. And then my last, which is upcoming, is National Black Marketers Day. So it is November 16th. So I like to say I'm a super founder. And I care about my people.
November 16th is my birthday.
Shut up. Okay. Well, happy early birthday, depending on when people watch, and happy National Black Marketers Day too.
Okay.
I gotta get you a cake.
Hey now.
All right, so we're going to get into the podcast. Today's subject is actually the culture of data.
Mhm.
So it's exactly why you're here today. But just a quick rundown of how this podcast works, not just for you, but for the listeners, because it's only episode 2. So, we're still new to this and we're just trying to get everyone on board and make sure everyone's following along with us. So the first part, which we've done, was because of who they are. We introduced you. The second part is rising above the noise. That's the intro of the subject. So that's the culture of data. And also, Amber will introduce the tension point that's really going to drive the conversation. The next part is decoded. When we really get into the subject, we start talking about everything. After that, we go a little bit deeper, or we talk more about why this matters in what's called longer than a moment. After that, we talk about the intention versus the impact of everything, which is our built on vibes segment. And then we wrap it up with let that sit. And then for our in response to section, we're going to shout out some people who have commented on some of the clips we put out and stuff like that to thank them. But it's also a place where when we have comments, we address those.
Mhm.
Okay?
I love it.
Yeah. So, Amber, are you ready to get us into the tension point of today's subject?
Yes. So, of course, because we're strategists, we always want to talk about the tension. And from our perspective, of course, culture is so much more than what's hot in the streets, as I said before. It is the foundation of how we understand ourselves, how we show up in the world, our values, conventions, social practices, all those good anthropology variables. So, in this case, from a tension standpoint, when we're talking about the culture of data, we are interested in sort of thinking about, how brands and businesses can have all the data in the world and no insight.
Mm.
And we just thought, that's going to be really good for Sequoyah to like jump into. So when you hear me say some of these businesses have all the data in the world and no insight, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
America. um, but no, seriously, I think we have so much data on people. We choose to do what we want to do with it or nothing at
Mhm.
all. I have a phrase on my site. It's sequoiahglenn.com. It's like my professional speaking site. And my bag over there, actually, and I don't know if y'all seen it. I made a bag for Black Week and all the conferences, and it's my phrase: "Data without insights ain't shit."
Mhm.
Like you
Mhm.
can, it's kind of like right now. The easiest way I can say it is right now. If I had a whole bunch of pesos,
Mhm.
I can have it in America. It's recognized as currency in Mexico,
Mhm.
but I can't transact at a store with that currency.
Mhm.
Um, I can go somewhere else and transact on it. But ultimately, I need to understand why I can't transact on it. It's not recognized by our banks. I would have to get it converted, cleaned in some cases, right? You
Mhm.
know, you go travel and it's like this dollar bill has a rip in it. We can't do anything with it, right? It's
Right.
it's dirty money, not
Yeah.
dirty money like dirty money. No diddy. But all seriousness, you have to I look at data like currency, physical,
Mhm.
tangible currency.
Mhm.
If you're not in the right country, it will not be recognized. If
Mhm.
that currency is tattered, torn, or abused in any way, it doesn't matter if it's $100 of whatever that currency is, it will not be recognized. I have the
Mhm.
same approach to data.
Mhm.
I believe that a lot of people right now where we are, especially in America, where we're a little bit behind on certain data collection
Mhm.
points compared to like the EU and things, but then we're ahead in a lot of ways, right?
Mhm.
I feel that we have gotten so far away from the strategy of why we're collecting data
Mhm.
because data right now is super sexy.
Mhm.
And I love it, right? It
Mhm.
pays our bills.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the bills will stop being paid if we're not able to connect the data we have with the intended action. So back to the currency point. If I want to go right down the street at insert brand name here that didn't sponsor this podcast, and I say, hey, here's 1,200 pesos, they're going to look at me like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Mhm.
Our physical machine won't even recognize it if I want to take it under the table and convert it, right? Um, I would have to strategize and think, we're in New York City. Where's the nearest conversion stop or
Mhm.
bank? Is it closed right now? Do I have to wait till tomorrow?
Right.
I would have to literally strategize on how do I convert pesos to dollars and then also recognize in that conversion I may lose or gain value.
Right.
The same exact thing is how I look at the culture of data.
Mhm.
We have to make sure data is not just collected. That's the easy shit. Now, early in my career, I hope I can say shit. Earlier in my
Yeah.
career, we were fighting to collect data. We
Yeah.
were fighting to make it to where consumers didn't feel taken advantage of. That was 13 years ago.
Mhm.
But now that it's a cultural norm that there's some transaction of using the digital
Mhm.
internet or any digital ecosystem, customers are now like, okay, cool, accept my cookies, whatever.
Yeah.
But where companies, I think, are failing, and countries, literally, we're all one global economy, is not strategizing on that conversion factor and understanding every time we convert, every time we change this essentially matter,
Mhm.
it may lose or gain value. And it's
Mhm.
up to us as strategists to make sure that that value is assigned before the conversion, not after. And I think that's our biggest issue right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's 2 words you used that I think are overused in this industry, which are value and conversion, and the dissonance between the way those words are used and how they should be used in different settings is a huge part of, 1, today's subject, and 2, a big part of what we're talking about today. You talked about, being able to convert the data into something that actually is meaningful,
Mhm.
and also understanding the value of it. Because, we can think about all the conversion tables for currency, and I think that's a great analogy,
Mhm.
but it's like, okay, this is worth how much of this? How much is this worth? How much of this do I need to equal this. And that conversation should be maybe not the same exact way, but should be something that these companies are really trying to figure out instead of just saying, oh, here's this thing that's going to actually just support what I'm already trying to say.
Yeah. Bias.
Right.
And data by design is neutral, but we manipulate it into, or we can manipulate it into a lot of different things. You know, I think about one time when I was at an agency that used to be not too far away from the studio, and we had an idea of what we're going to use for a pitch. We looked at the data. The data told us that our idea was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't just be like, oh, well, nah, we right though. We were like, oh, wait, what is the data actually saying? Oh, it's saying something actually is more powerful. Maybe we should go with that. Because that actually made more sense. It actually led to an insight that could actually matter.
Right. But I'm going to come back to our original tension. Lots of data, no insight, and very much aligned to your tagline there. Um, there's that human intervention, as you just started to discuss, that from the perspective of the person who actually has access to the data, that can sort of manipulate it. But then there's also potentially the lack of humans in the data
Yeah.
as far as human response or primary research. Because we've had, it's so sexy, big data, right? And like, oh, we get all this info from social. Oh, you want to know what people think about XYZ? Oh, go to Reddit. Okay, yeah, we could do that. But the other piece about the culture piece is um always centering the humans and
Right.
centering humanity. Because after all, who's buying? The humans are still buying, right? So my question for you, Sequoyah, is when you're thinking about building a research agenda or a data collecting agenda, what is your point of view on how you discuss the value of primary research and data and how you kind of bring that together?
Yeah. So kind of going back, but still answering your question, and really aligning both of what you guys' thoughts are. Let's go back to money. I love talking about
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
And I travel a lot. And I'm still a baby global traveler, but I'm getting there, you know. Um, if you've ever done a currency conversion with a machine, it's a different conversion rate
Mhm.
and fee than it is with a human.
Mhm. Mm. Mhm.
I didn't know that. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, dang, why did it say online? It's saying that this is worth this amount of money. But then when I do it with a machine, it says this. When I do it with a human, it says this. The other part I didn't know is the time. Every single millisecond on the world's clock, currency conversions can change. A lot of
Uh-huh.
people don't know that. It's like a world clock and it says how currency is changing conversion wise.
Mm.
I bring that up because if you don't know that, you'll think you're gonna get, say, $50. And it's like, no, baby girl, you was 5 minutes too late. You got 47,
Mhm.
right? That is how I look at data. We have to be strategic in not just knowing the what, it's the when and the how.
Mhm.
If you collect data in 2025 the same way you collected it in 2013,
Mhm.
you're likely gonna get less money back, less value, less insight back if we follow the analogy,
Mhm.
right? If you are also cutting out the human experience, there could be a higher cost
Mm.
in doing that because that one little thing could have cost you in conversion world $5
Mhm.
versus it might be a little bit slower to talk to that bank teller, but they're going to make sure, like in the UK or the EU rather, there's
Mhm.
two, you got the British pound and you got the euros, right?
Mhm.
Depending on where you're converting from, the British pound might be better for you, baby.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
depending on where you're going, the euro might be better for you.
Mhm.
Right.
The
Mhm.
same exact thing with data. So when you ask about primary research, I don't think a lot of people know what it is. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people as strategists, we have to slow people down and ask not just what do you want to do, not just why,
Mhm.
but also where are you going?
Right.
Because if you're going a certain place and there might be budget constrictions, there might be time restrictions, there might be all these things that ultimately change the data that we receive, primary research may not be where we need to go,
Mhm.
or it just might be where we need to go. So I think
Mhm.
the first part is understanding we have to be a little more sophisticated in thinking, not just I need data. To me, saying I need data in 2025 is like saying, oh, what's up, Jesus? I need air. I mean, that's just what it is. That's where we are, or we should be. If
Right.
you're not, talk to me. But that to me is so elementary where a lot of us are now is really where do you want to go with this data and
Mhm.
why?
Mhm.
And then I work my way backwards and I think about my methodology.
Mhm.
I like to think of myself a lot of times as a data doctor. I don't go into my doctor and say, "Hey, yo, I need diclofenac." I don't know, right? I say,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is what hurts and this is how I prefer to feel," right?
Mhm.
And so I feel like a part of the issue with the culture of data is that there are a lot of people that are taking up stages and talking about things that they don't know what they're talking about. There are also a lot of people that only know data collection. They don't know
Mhm.
anything about ethics. They don't know anything about
Mhm.
privacy. You bring up Reddit, and I promise I'll shut up. But you bring up Reddit, and there was a issue with this company, and I can't remember the name of the company, it doesn't matter, but there was an issue where they basically used a Reddit, community to conduct primary market research.
Mm.
They did not tell those people what their comments were being used for.
Yep.
They did not say who they were. They pretended like we was just like this
Mhm.
and monetized, not just collected the data. That was the easy part. They monetized that data,
Mhm.
and that is unethical, and depending on what
Mhm.
country you're in, it's illegal. And
Mhm.
so we have to get beyond, I think, the fancy buzzwords, kind of to Gary's point. It's
Mhm.
so sexy to say, oh, I have a market researcher. Okay, but what kind?
Mhm.
What type of speed are they working with? Who are they as a human?
Mhm.
And if they're not reflective of the people you're trying to serve, you might want to slow down, get off of that kind of like digital conversion factor,
Mhm.
AI,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And actually talk to that human. It might cost you just a little bit more on the front end, but on the back end, you should, in theory, have some of the most robust insights that you can actually transact on.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there's so much about the insight part that's really just the human part. Like the
Yeah.
understanding of human beings and having human beings that understand why people are thinking certain ways. Uh, there's so much at the convergence of brand, market, strategy, sector that data can help solve. And you bring up an interesting point of the type of data that's being collected. Because I think, generally speaking, the data collection piece, to your point, is something that companies are generally good at. Who's doing it, that can get a little shaky, but gaining access to the data is generally done well. They get enough to
Mhm.
make a good hypothesis for a direction that they should go.
Yeah.
They just don't take the time to think about it too many times. It's like we found the points that say, "Hey, yes, this is what we want to say," instead of testing them,
Mhm.
instead of pushing against them, instead of making sure that they can actually stand up to scrutiny, to logic, to all these things.
Yeah.
Um, I've wrote down a note because we've been talking about first party data. You like to bring that up, which is important. And sometimes a lot of people they can't do it, or they don't take the time, or they don't have the budget and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
And I think we're going to get into that in deconstruction. So I don't want to go too far on that, but I
Alright,
do want to
cool.
take that into longer than a moment
Mhm.
because I think there's something there about why it matters, why first party data matters, why even starting with secondary matters,
Mhm.
and finding out things that just taking that extra half second to think about that can help inform the process of actually being able to gather primary
Mhm.
data.
Mhm.
I think
Yes.
there's something there.
Yeah. I think this is a little bit of no, this is a lot of my academic background because when we talk about you were just preaching to my heart when we're talking about research ethics and sort of all of the levers that we need to consider as it relates to research is so important. And one of those that was drilled into me in my program was you better not go into the marketplace asking questions that have already been asked.
I just told my students that last week.
It's
you,
like your mama saying,
you
"Didn't I
bet
just
not.
tell you?"
You bet. This was my committee. You bet not.
Yes.
You know, so we need a thorough investigation of the secondary research that already exists before you go out and do primary. And so that's the thing I talk about in the agency all the time. You want to go out in the marketplace if you have an opportunity to do primary, to ask questions that have not already been answered. Because most of the secondary is not really specific to your brand, your problem, your challenge. In the first place, it's just giving you a landscape. And so for you, in consideration of the ethics piece, we wanted to like touch on primary. What other tips do you have when you're thinking
Yeah.
about that?
I was at Fast Company Innovation Festival 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think I live here now. Don't tell the IRS, but I was at Fast Company Innovation Festival, which is one of my absolute favorites in the
Oh,
world.
okay.
As far as really putting research on the forefront without saying it's a research conference, right?
Mm,
And to me, what makes it so special is it's research and practicum, not theory.
yeah.
And I think, and I'm sure you, PhD wise, get it, right? Like, yeah. So
Mhm.
I think he was the CEO of Sunday, which is a lawn garden company that they were a client of mine at a previous agency when they first started, and they were trying to compete against True Green and a couple others.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget doing competitive research for them. And it's kind of like a proud mama moment. These people don't know me, but I remembered their business. And the guy, I forget his name. Forgive me if you're watching this on LinkedIn, but call me. And he said that they really love 0P data. And I'm like, the hell is 0P, right? But he was saying that they have, as a brand, marketers, connection point. They've created such a strong connection between their brand and their customers that their customers send in data unsolicited. He was
Oh.
like, they mail them soil samples, they
Mm.
send pictures, here's what it looks like, and that they've ultimately created a repository of data, 0P
Mhm.
data that they did
Mhm.
not ask for
Mhm.
internally, and they use it to make decisions on everything from marketing messaging all the way to product development. I thought that was the coolest
So
thing ever.
fantastic.
And I mean, we talk about it all the time, but I never
Yeah.
thought about making it 0P.
Yeah.
I don't know, and maybe he took the term from somebody, I don't know, but I hadn't heard of it in that way.
Mhm.
And what I thought it really allowed us to do is back up before we even get to the 1P, right?
Mhm.
So now you have your secondary. Hopefully, you are conducting secondary research of
Mhm.
some sort, consumer trend reports.
Mhm.
I love to look at financial reports,
Mhm.
especially if your company's publicly traded.
Mhm.
That is a great indicator, right? Not necessarily.
Are you gonna pay your bills?
Yeah, it's like, hey, what's going on over there? And then just competitive research, right? All those secondary points. Some are better than others. But I love it because it gives you a framework in which to think.
Mhm.
If you are going to ask the same question, I don't think it's necessarily bad,
Mhm.
but can you ask it differently?
Mhm.
So, for example, if I say, Gary, how likely are you to purchase this water bottle? Is it a little? Is it a lot? Is it about the same after you've seen this ad, right?
Right.
That question might have been asked of you a gazillion times.
Correct.
And you may get annoyed and bounce out of a survey or bounce out or gloss over at a focus group, right? It's like,
Mhm.
do you hear me? Do you want your incentive? But instead, I might still want to know that answer, but I may ask it differently because I see that you, especially companies that are like media companies and big companies that do community based research all year
Mhm.
long, I might say, we've found that we may have an issue or whatever.
Mhm.
Tell me more about how you perceive the brand.
Mhm.
What does that mean for you engaging in the
Mhm.
brand? It's
Mhm.
literally the same question.
Yeah.
But the way I ask it is acknowledging that you may have a little fatigue from giving your feedback. I acknowledge this is what a lot of people are saying.
Mhm.
Now I want to understand a little bit more. I feel like researchers have lost their finesse because
Mm,
we have gotten so behind computers and not in real world.
mhm,
When I moved from media research, like desk research, where I'm popping out Nielsen figure media math for those that are in media,
mhm.
trying to figure out what's the hut and the put and all that stuff for those that are triggered like I am. Um, when I got from brainstorming sessions, those are great too. I still love those. When I got from, hey, let's figure out messaging resonance, brand lift, those are the ones that we usually love. You get kind of almost robotic
Mhm.
in a way, or you can, right?
Yeah.
Especially because research departments are getting smaller and smaller. And a lot of that research in the agency and media world is not done by research departments no more. They're done by marketers. And there's no shade in that either. I'm a marketer. But what I am saying is when you are so used to being behind your desk and churning out reports, it's like, when is the last time you went to a concert? When is the
Mhm,
last time you shopped in online or in store?
mhm,
When is the last time you just had a very human moment where you can see yourself in a product?
mhm,
I am deeply concerned with a lot of the introversion in our industry. I am an introvert, but I know when to turn it on and off.
mhm,
I'm concerned with the hamster wheel of it all, where we
mhm.
are getting more lean, we have less time. So, my encouragement to anybody in the field of data, which is everybody, is to be a fucking human. Because
Mhm.
if you start not being a human and you begin to be on this hamster wheel, then the data and not so much the data, excuse me, the insights you get from it is hamster wheel, is cookie cutter.
Mhm.
That's when you become replaceable by AI.
Mhm.
But when you are actual human with real living experience, before we shot, y'all, we were here just yapping about Beyonce Cowboy Carter,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Three. Did you go? Okay, so three of the four of us in this studio went to. Well, two of the four, one couldn't go by default. Sorry, but we were just talking about what that experience means,
Yeah.
right? If you go and Live Nation says, "Hey, I want you to research on fandom in 2025."
Mm,
And you didn't go to Cowboy Carter. You don't know anything that the concert even existed. You may not have went to a concert in the last 5 years.
mm,
What the hell are you going to bring to the
yeah.
insights of what we're researching? You can have the data all day. We can have the ticket sales data. We can have social media brand tracking, like you mentioned earlier. We can have all this stuff. But when you talk about adding some seasoning and flavor and serving that dish up,
Mhm.
if you haven't been to a concert in 5 years and arguably the concert of the year, there's not shit you can tell me about being a concert goer in 2025.
Right.
That's one example, but it's so real, and that's why my agency, we only work with in-target consultants. If you have not purchased, likely to purchase, engaged with a certain brand or what they're trying to build, you are not on my account because I'm not gonna
Mhm.
waste time explaining to you the humanity of it. I don't care if you have 25 years in the game.
Right.
If you don't have 25 lived experiences in this particular vertical, you're not gonna be on that account.
Mhm.
We do it like that because we're a consultancy. Media
Right.
doesn't do that like that.
Mhm.
Agency, big agency don't do it like that, which
Mhm.
is fine. That's why they call me.
Mhm.
But I think we have to do a better job at getting the nerds of us all from behind that desk,
Mhm.
get into these human centric moments and realize it's okay to shake things up. But if we aren't okay with shaking things up, we're regressing and not progressing with all this data that we have.
I love that. I feel like she put a pin in
Yeah, and
what we
and
tryna
it actually opened the door to built on vibes in an interesting way, right? Because I see a lot of parallels with what you're talking about and going back to value again. We're talking about the value of you talked about how research and media, there's a lot of shrinking, right? And part of that is because a lot of companies still only value what they're able to or what they've agreed to attribute to that bottom line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yet all the stuff that's underneath that actually does lead you to the bottom line or leads you to increases or jumps in the bottom line, that sort of underground foundational work, they're like, we don't need that. And then they start
Mhm.
to wonder, wait, why aren't we making the money that we want to make
Mhm.
anymore? What is it that we're missing? right? So not only is not only what's the intent of the company, but what's the financial intent of the company? Because AppleCare told me that the point is to maximize your revenue.
Right.
Right.
That's what I done heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone else in this room has heard the same thing. And I know many other people have heard the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity that's going on that doesn't seem to agree with what the point is supposed to be for business in this world. So how do we kind of start to reconcile that in a way where we are not just talking about the problem and potentially exacerbating the problem, but once again, pointing people into the right direction? I mean, I think we've definitely hit some points today,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about, like I said, we deconstructed it.
Yeah.
It's happening. But what are like the first steps, or maybe just a little bit more of a follow-up on some of the points that we've talked about thus far, to just not push them yet,
Yeah.
but hey, look that way. That big pile of money on that table that is clear. You can see it and you say you want it. But every time you say you want it, you turn away and start walking away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So can I shake the table?
I mean,
all right. I'm gonna say something that's so unpopular, and I've said it this last year. I've been talking shit because I can. We need more business people in research. We need more anthropologists in research. We need more people that did not study research in research.
Mm-hmm.
I, coming from media as a practitioner, I've been conducting research from my very first job before I even knew it was consumer research. My very first job, shout out to Southeastern Grocers, otherwise known as Winn-Dixie or Bilo, depending on which market you're in.
Oh man,
That was my very first job.
Back.
My first taste at research was doing pricing analysis. I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was a coordinator, and it's like, hey, can you make some sense out of these numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. I just want to make a dent in the business. And then it got into I'm a foodie. If anybody does know me, I guess I should have added that to the beginning. I love food. I love the culture of food. I think food is just freaking amazing. And these hips definitely validate that. That's your insight, right? But I say all that to say they started seeing that I knew numbers and I love food. We're a grocery store. They had a lab that I would dare call an insights lab now, or R&D lab. And we would have to do cuttings. So I was representing bakery and deli, and we would literally cut up food and taste them and talk about all the notes and all these things. We would take cakes and sit them on a shelf to see how long it takes to mold. We would do all kind of stuff with food. And that was my first really foray into market research that I didn't know was research. Then I got into media. I was in ad sales research, which is a whole nother beast. If you know my attitude, it will probably explain it all. I come from ad sales in big media, print. Then I went to radio. Then I went to cable, OTT. And then I went to the agency side and then a research firm. And the thing I think that made me different was I knew the business. I knew how to take my insight from saying, this water bottle should be $1.05. It's likely to be purchased by middle-aged white people because it has great electrolytes and is served at Whole Foods in a suburban neighborhood near you. I knew how to take that to say, okay, but that's only one segment. That market only represents 23%. We're missing another X amount of percent. And let's dig deeper into who is in that percentage gap that we're missing in revenue. That is revenue we're not actualizing. Doesn't that sound different? Right?
Yeah.
That's because I have 2 business degrees and an MBA. The person who is taught just to research, and no shade to my researchers, I'm not saying that. But what has sustained me and made me so different is because I knew how to talk the language of business. And I think I don't know which one comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I do think a lot of the research departments have such a heavy overhead between vendor costs, and then you got to pay. I can't tell Amber I'm about to pay her $53,000. Girl, you will look at me and tell me to screw off, right? So it has both a labor cost and a vendor cost, right? they're so expensive, and some people don't know how to get from that first data point I said
Mm-hmm.
to the actual business of what it means. So to me, part of the issue is researchers need to be ferociously curious right now.
Mhm.
Our jobs are being cut left and right because I can put in a prompt in AI and say, all right, this water bottle is $1.05. Name the top 5 competitors around that price point
Mm-hmm.
in Whole Foods, in suburbia. AI can give me a list, but AI can't ingest or shouldn't be ingesting our revenue figures that they just shared at the leadership meeting.
Right.
When I was at Comcast, and I love my team, they're still my friends to this day, but I remember getting on their nerves because I wanted to be in every 8 o'clock meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sit with leaders. I need to know what they're reading. I need to know our stock prices. I need to know what are we developing for 2 years down the road. I need to know where does research fit into the business.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you're doing too much.
Mm.
And other companies was like that too. You're doing too much. You're in the weeds.
Right.
But me being in the weeds led me to understand where my work fit into the business.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, the chicken and the egg, the business also has to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The business also has to recognize R&D should be a part of every strategic decision you make, every single thing you do in 2025 or whenever you watch this moving forward. There should be some data point, qualitative or quantitative,
Mm-hmm.
as to why you made the decision that you made. That's where AI gets tripped up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, unless you prompt it, provide the source,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to tell you. And sometimes even when you ask for the source, it'll say, you're right about that. There is no source.
Right.
After it gave you a source.
After it
And
gave you a
then-
source.
That's why fundamentals are so important.
It's the business fundamentals.
Mhm.
I don't care whether you're in research or you're in law
Yeah.
or you're the janitor. Who told you that? Who said that? If for my Real Housewives people, right? You have to get to the source. And at the end of the day, in this global economy, the source is currency. If you do not understand what makes your business tick, and if the business does not explain to their employees what makes the business tick, we're stuck. And I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of researchers are getting when they lose their jobs. Anybody, I shouldn't say just researchers. I don't want to beat up on us, but you're having a conniption because you don't know where to go from here.
Mhm.
Research is one of the most, and data analytics tech is one of the most fascinating careers that you can research for the most sophisticated business. You can research for the government. You can research for Magic City. I don't care. Research and data is everywhere. But if we continue to almost put ourselves on this high horse like we're untouchable, we're going to continue to be touchable. People will continue to build technology to at least get the job done good enough
Mhm.
versus as good as it can and should be.
Mhm.
We have to be ferociously curious about the business. And if you are not, go ahead, write your retirement plan because you are going to be replaced with somebody younger, more curious, scrappy with technology, and willing to do whatever they need to do to break into this wonderful world of marketing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And to piggyback off the curiosity, companies need to be more curious in an ethical way about what's bringing the money in, which is the
Facts.
people, right? Because that's the brand guy here. That's
Mhm.
the one that always just drives me nuts. It's just like, why don't you want to know more? Like every beginning of the semester, I tell my students, your job is not to sell. What you're trying to do is, and I will throw the fry gift, take my money. That's what you're trying to reach for.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sunday example is a perfect illustration of that. Zero party data here, because we care and we see that you care, here's information. This is what we're seeing. What can we do about this? That's how you continue to make money.
Yeah.
That's how you connect with people. That's how you get people to say, go here. Go to Sunday.
Mhm.
Yeah, the ads help. but what keeps them there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so passionate about Beyonce as a business person. Now, her business ventures don't always do the best. I personally think she does it for research. That's
Mm.
my personal. If Beyonce, if you happen to be listening, girl, call me. But I really feel like sometimes she just does these product lines and things just to see what people's appetites are. She can hire anybody in the world and make any of these things pop, but a lot of them fail. Most of them fail. But what I think she does very well is she has people around her who are part of cultures, and not just Beyonce as a culture, but
Mhm.
all the things people care about who care about Beyonce.
Mhm.
And I think Rihanna is a masterful marketer. I think Rihanna takes a more technical approach. Rihanna's brands have some of the best researchers. I
Mhm.
think they are great. Savage Fenty just did a talk. Was that Black Week or Fast? Was it Black
They
Week?
were at Black Week.
Black Week.
Mhm.
They just did a fabulous talk. I'm like, my weeks are running together about how they had to reimagine their customers. They went through a little whoop-de-doop, right?
Mhm.
But I was actually part of their sample at one point where they had community feedback and they were doing some really cool research methodologies that
Mhm.
nobody was really doing
Mhm.
at the time. So I think as a consumer of both Rihanna and Beyonce, I think they're both masterful, and not them, their teams, masterful researchers in a sense of cultural immersions. I
Mhm.
think we have gotten a little bit of far away from who we are serving.
Mhm.
Um, at Winn-Dixie, it was right when I was leaving, I was going into my first media job. The newspaper called me and they wanted me to stand up their digital department. So I'm
Mhm.
like, hell yeah, create the role, right? But
Mhm.
at the time we were getting a new CEO. We had been acquired by a holding company, and that CEO, he made every single store person. We had 894 stores at the time. He made every single HQ headquarter employee work a store for however many days
Mm.
because there was this gap between we're firing off saying, "Oh, we need to buy this. We need to." I'm like 25 brokering deals in freaking Bogota for flowers. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never worked at a florist. I know demand.
Mhm.
I could look at, okay, here's seasonality and demand, but there was a breakdown between how we were talking to Hispanic only florists,
Mhm.
florists in New Orleans versus florists in South Carolina, right? And so on and so on. I think y'all get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That CEO to me was one of the most powerful changes in the force of Southeastern grocers because he understood before you go firing off these shots, sometimes you need to be knee deep in it. You need to see what is happening with your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Then those are the end customers. The other customer is the store.
Yep.
So for
Mhm.
these big brands we're talking about and that you're teaching your students about and that you're consulting for, I think sometimes we don't know who our customers are. And then I think you asked a question earlier about almost like why do people shy away from it? It's because data also brings truth.
Right.
And once you have truth, you have to do something with it. America, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
You now have the truth. You're either going to lean into it and make change. You're either going to lean out of it and say, I don't care who my customer is, I'm willing to do that. Or you're going to stay in this parallel where you're just collecting data to collect it.
Yeah.
To me, I would rather you be on opposite ends than to be stuck in that middle ground.
Mhm.
A lot of businesses right now are stuck in that middle ground. They don't want to
Yeah.
know the truth because the truth, especially with Gen Z and now older Gen Alpha are making purchasing decisions, they now have the privilege that a lot of us did not have to put truth to power, and not just in their purchase, in on social media and influencing the purchase of millions of consumers.
Mhm.
And so I don't even remember what the question is, but I think we have to really be business people. I love
Mhm.
my MBA. Maybe one day I'll get a PhD or a DBA. I haven't decided yet. But I think being an actual practitioner
Mhm.
of business is my personal super strength.
Mhm.
And knowing all the internal data points, all the internal stakeholders that it takes to keep my job, grow my job, and actually do something to change the organization.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And before we wrap up, I just want to make it very clear that this is everything that Sequoyah said. This is a very pro Beyonce and very pro Rihanna podcast.
Yes.
I don't want there to be
No, we don't want
any
any
sort of
problems.
confusion.
No.
We don't want them problems, but we also don't want the confusion. just everyone here pro Beyonce. We're talking about the people who did her wrong
Mhm.
and who did Rihanna wrong. Just for clarity, this is my camera right here, right? Just very clear. Let's be absolutely crystal. But as I said, I think this is a good place to wrap up
Yeah,
this part of the discussion.
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope I answered
So-
y'all questions because y'all know I can talk.
No, you
Mm,
did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely.
It was excellent.
So for this episode, we're gonna let that sit.
Okay.
But I do want to thank a few people who dropped some comments on different socials and stuff. So thank you to Professor Deborah Sanders. Thank you to Natasha Bettina, Erica Vivian, Les Trujillo, and Joan P. Ball, PhD. Remember, you can drop comments either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can review us there as well. 5 stars, please. Thank you very much. Drop comments in the YouTube. Apparently, iHeart picked us up too.
Oh,
yeah.
I saw that. So do it there. This is everywhere. I mean, 3 episodes in, this is wild, but you know, we are very thankful. But as I said, we're very thankful. Thank you for joining us for this episode. For the Patreon people, Deconstruct is going to be extra interesting because now we're going to be able to really talk. So sorry to y'all who are maybe not behind the paywall yet, but this might be the reason to get behind the paywall. It's not really that much. And you get merch discounts. So don't forget about that part. But until next time, thank you, Sequoyah. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, listeners and watchers. We will be back to talk more about the culture of.